So welcome to this Thrive Together Masterclass. Today is Thursday, July 18th, 2024. It happens to be my wedding anniversary. So it's a very special day to be talking about love. And I'm introducing Skye Michiels, who is our guest host today, who is the founder of With Heart Coaching. And we're going to be talking about a heart-centered approach to agent leadership. And you have a background with Compass, head of coaching, agent development. So we're so excited to pick your brain about all that you know about bringing out the best in sales agents, really helping them shine, be happy, and really thrive, and what it takes to inspire that kind of motivation. So thank you so much for being with us here today.
I'm thrilled to be here today. So I'm very, very excited.
Excellent. Yeah, such a pleasure. And so we were talking about how we're really here from all over the country. I'm representing a different part of the world. And so we have this common theme of really wanting to talk about, inspiration, drive, motivation, and how to be our best selves. So tell me a little bit about your background and what brought you to found With Heart Coaching.
Sure. I'll give you the quick 30-second background just so it's not too boring. But years ago when I was in high school, I grew up in upstate New York. I knew I wanted to be a teacher. So I always knew ninth grade, I knew exactly what I wanted to be. And as a family, we grew up pretty poor. So I grew up, I graduated from high school. I was on the crew team. I went to Syracuse University, so Division I athlete, got a scholarship. Super excited, graduated with a master's degree from Syracuse, and I became a teacher. And then very quickly realized, like, man, I'm still poor. So unfortunately, teachers in America.
The easiest path to building wealth, I think, education.
No,
Unfortunately, I'm
I
very unfortunately.
So I knew I needed to get a little side gig. So in 2002, I got my real estate license, and I was going to make that my side business, right?
Okay.
Sell a little, evenings, summertime, just make it a little hobby.
Yeah.
And very quickly, the competitive side of me kicked in, and also the real estate world in 2002, 3, 4 is pretty active. So it became a full-time career. So in essence, I found myself working 2 full-time jobs. So I left in 2005. I left teaching in 2005 and went full-time real estate. And over the years, did everything in real estate, from being an individual agent, small team, built a big team. I helped to launch a brokerage in 2016. And then in 2018, I had also gotten married, had 2 beautiful children. And unfortunately, after 10 years of marriage, I was a little burnt out with selling real estate and running the team. And then B, I was also going through a very amicable, but a divorce as well.
Sure. Major transition. Yeah.
Major life transitions. And I couldn't be that person who was running out for a listing appointment, randomly. If I had, I had 2 little kids.
Yeah.
At the time they were 5 and 7 years old. So I needed to have stability. Compass, this company at the time in 2018, it was only existed in New York and DC. It really wasn't
the big metropolitan areas. Yeah.
But anyways, they were launching in Philadelphia. So I took the recruiting call, just thinking, oh, I'm just going to learn about this company so I can recruit against it. And I just fell in love.
Little did you know.
Yeah.
Turning points, right?
Oh my God. It's like, it's like one of those, you took the interview, in the middle of the interview, in your head, you're like, why did I take this interview? And I just literally fell in love with the company. And my life, and I think the universe always takes care of us, right? In my life at the time, it really was the perfect thing because of the fact I could have a schedule.
Right. Some of that stability and yeah.
Got it. Weekends, I wasn't working weekends anymore, things like that. So in 2018, I helped launch Compass in Pennsylvania, eventually New Jersey, Delaware, as a managing director here. And, things were really fun, exciting. And then we had this little thing called COVID that hit.
You know what? I heard of that. Yeah. Sounds familiar. It rings a bell.
Yeah. Small little pandemic hit, and the world shuts down. And I started doing all kinds of virtual coaching and training all around the country, in addition to obviously running my region and things like that. At the time, I formed a group called the 6 A.M.ers, which was, COVID. There's no reason to get up early, but I was like, we're going to get up early.
We're going to show up. We're going to, And I know a lot of the guests who have come through on that group, on those calls. Yeah.
So, and So that started to grow. So I found myself really, again, doing two full-time jobs.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
was
Yeah. It's a
managing.
pattern. It might be you.
I right. I know maybe I'm the problem here. And the common denominator seems to be
Yeah.
me. So I was managing 450 agents and I was running national programming for Compass. So luckily 2 years ago, I was able to give up the managing director role and go full-time into coaching. And I became the head of coaching for nationally for Compass.
Amazing.
Um,
Yeah.
so it was an awesome job. I was teaching agents across the country virtually and in person. So we were starting to travel at that point, and it was a really incredible opportunity to impact people, but also work on my skills as a coach and a trainer as well.
Yeah, and merge your passions, right? You have all the different, there's
Teacher.
teacher background. You get to pull that out of your pocket, and bring it.
Yeah. It was a really cool full circle moment where I'm like, oh wow, I'm a teacher again,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I loved everything I did at Compass. It was an amazing experience. It was it was life-changing in so many ways. But I also, at the end of the day, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a builder, and I'm a creator. And I just had that desire to really build something again. And so I knew that there was a point where the travel, it was going to come to an end where I didn't want to be flying around the country.
Sure, yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I made a decision this past year to leave and form my own coaching company. And so really April 1st of this year is the launch of With Heart Coaching. And I left my role at Compass on February 29th. And now I've been
A leap year
leap
decision.
year.
Why not? Yeah,
Exactly. A lot of symbolism
yeah.
involved. And so it's been an incredible run, 3 months in. So today I have With Heart Coaching is basically a coaching platform, not just for business or life or real estate, but really about life.
Yeah.
And I titled it With Heart Coaching because that is the philosophy of the company. Everything we do is going to be done with heart, with love, with care. Um, the model of real estate or business coaching that we get into is really not just about coaching the business side or the tactics, but it's really about coaching the whole person. And, on the other side, I have a life coaching program called The Happier Human, which is
Yeah.
really about how to teach people to be happier, healthier, and more connected as human beings as
Yeah,
well.
and teach people, right? Because it's not necessarily something that comes automatically. It's a skill or it's a strength you have to actively work at, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, I think a lot of us, we think happiness is a destination. We think when I do this, when
Right.
I have in a car, when I'm married, when I'm in a relationship, when I fill in the blank.
Right.
Right. Actually, let's do this as John. I love having a small group. If you
Yeah.
guys don't mind in the chat, like throw in the chat, like what you feel when you have it, you're going to be
Oh
happy.
yeah. I
Right.
got mine when my office space is done.
Yeah,
When
exactly.
it's finished, I'm gonna be really happy.
Exactly. We all have this, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But we were fed this message in our society that happiness is a destination, but happiness is a direction. And it's actually, I use this line, be where your feet are. Happiness is where your feet are. And we're often looking behind us with regret or ahead of us with, anxiety. And when you find happiness right where your feet are, that's where you unlock this beautiful journey that we're on.
Yeah, so how do you help people? Oh yeah, Sonia says happiness is an inside job. There you go.
Yep.
Right?
Huge.
It's not gonna,
Huge.
no
Yep.
one's gonna be able to get there for you. How do you teach people to cultivate this? I mean, because I think one thing to understand that sort of intellectually, we have to stay present, but so much of our, our the way our minds work drags us in different directions. So how do you teach people to kind of overcome that?
So the first thing, the first step in the process really is letting go of caring about outcomes and getting really, really deep into process, right? So the process, the practice, the routines, the structures, that's what matters the most. And the way we do this within this program, or the way I teach people, is the first thing you want to start out with is intention or energy. So we walk through a process where I give everyone an exercise, a visualization exercise, where we all come up with a one-word intention for the month. So once you have your energy aligned and you have an intention, Now what we do is we sort of say, okay, well, if I accomplished one thing this month, what would it be? Right. So now you do create like a little bit of a target, and it's only on one thing, like less is more. Fed a message that
That's a good lesson for happiness, right? Less is more, because my mind wants to say more is more, but
that's right. And we're fed this message more is more, right? We're fed a message of grind, hustle,
right,
wake up at 5 a.m., do the ice plunge, do this, and then you're going to be happy. Right now, actually, let me let go.
right.
But there is maybe one thing that this month I'm going to focus on, but then we align on the action, and the action is that process. So I want to complete my office by the end of the month. All right, it's cool. That's my North Star. That's the direction I'm heading in. But then what is the process? What is the one thing? I'm going to paint for 5 minutes a day. I'm going to paint, or
Yeah.
whatever the goal might be. And that's what you want to focus on, is the action or the process. And then magically the result's going to happen or not happen, but we don't attach any emotion to the achieving of the result. We attach all our emotion into the joy of doing the action in the
Yeah,
process.
and the moving
Right?
things forward.
Yeah.
Yeah, this reminds me a lot of what James Clear talks about in Atomic Habits also, right? Because he is saying if you put those habits into place, you can't not get the result, right?
Yeah.
Like you're inevitably going to get there, whether it's sooner or later. And so
Yeah.
it's about finding the joy in those habits.
That's it. Exactly. And I think that's the key thing as well, is like you just mentioned the word joy. It's about finding joy in that process, in that routine, and letting go of trying to fix yourself.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Right. No one on this call needs to be fixed. We're all perfect as is. And instead, it's about honoring yourself.
Yes.
We find joy when we honor the process, not try to fix the process, to fix the person.
Yeah. And that's totally a totally different intention, or a different place to come from, right? And I think habits, often it reminds me of ritual. Like our bodies, we find comfort in rituals. Like we like routine. Our brains are wired for repetitive actions, and so there's a little bit of coming home to
Right.
those. I think we resist them when we think it's something I should be doing, I have to be doing. Then it's not very much fun. But if it's really a ritual or a rite that we find comfort in, I think that makes all the difference.
Yeah. In the chat too, let's see. Let's get some participation in chat. What do you feel like you should be doing right now?
Yeah.
And Laura, how about for you? Like, what do you feel like you should be doing right now?
Oh, I should be tidying my house a lot more. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
And
I have three small children, so they manage to, wreak havoc, and I have all these ideas about what, my house should look like and how tidy, and I compare to my friends' houses who have just as many children, but somehow it's pristine, and definitely judge myself for that, so.
oh my God. And the key to happiness really is letting go of that judgment, letting go of the idea of you should be doing stuff, and really going back into, okay, where can I find like that place of like so Laura, you would take this activity really and say, all right, this is providing a focus that I'm probably craving a little more organization.
Certainly, yeah, and that's
What's
legitimate. That's a legitimate need, is to have order in your space, for sure.
exactly.
I want to honor that.
And so negative emotions are part of energy, right? And happiness. Like happiness doesn't exist without unhappiness.
Right.
And we don't need to run from unhappiness, but what we can do is, unhappiness is like a flashlight on areas that we want to focus on.
Right.
We can't approach it as we need to fix ourselves.
Right.
Our approach it as, I'm going to honor this piece of me that craves organization.
Yes.
And then, Laura, it's like, okay, well, what's one thing I can maybe focus on just this month that will make me feel organized? So
Right.
play it out, Laura. Like, what's one thing?
Yeah. Well, I just came across this book yesterday, actually, called Keeping House While Drowning. And it's like a very gentle approach to organizing things. And so basically, one of her arguments is that you don't actually need to fold kids' laundry. Like, they're always going to just pull it out of their drawer, and who cares if it's wrinkled and all of that. So you just said like, have a drawer for pants and a drawer for shirts, shove them in, it's going to be fine. And I was like, that will save me hours, literally hours.
Yeah. And then look at your energy shift right there too.
True. It's true. I feel liberated for sure by this idea. And who's going to come by and open my drawers? And actually, if they do, I'll be very proud to share them of my new technique of
Exactly. Yeah. And you just illustrated this whole concept of less is more, right?
Yeah.
Actually doing less, aka folding your kids' laundry, is actually more. You just opened up a whole level of joy. Imagine
Yeah,
how liberating it is that you just open your drawers and throw in the pants and the
yeah,
shirt and then be
yeah.
done with laundry in 5 minutes versus the hours of stress.
Amazing. Yeah. And then Haley, hi Haley, by the way, popped into the chat about how she pays her house cleaner an extra $15 to fold and put away their kids' laundry.
There
Total
you
game changer.
go.
I love that. Outsource that. She knows the drill. She's got little ones.
Leverage.
The
Nothing wrong
struggle
with
is
leverage
real.
there.
Yeah.
It's
So
awesome.
fun. And Ophir's also hopped on the call. Skye, if you want to.
I'm up here. How's it going? Good seeing
I
you,
know you
man.
guys go way back.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
Good
some
to
really
see
good
you,
friends.
Scott. I
Really good
love
seeing
it.
you. Yeah.
Yeah. So I want to come back. Sonia popped in the chat also about something that she feels like she should be doing, which is making calls. And this is major one. I think a lot of
Yeah.
times, when people feel that pressure, they should always be, making those calls. All of a sudden you want to do it a lot less.
Yeah, and I think it all goes back into energy, right? Like Sonia, if you don't, maybe in the chat, put in what are these calls around? Probably business, right? So let's shift the energy involved. So instead of you thinking, I need to make phone calls right now, maybe you shift that focus into, I need to spread joy today.
That's a reframe.
You see the energy shift that we can go through? And so, I mean, your smile right now is lighting up the screen for those of you listening to this. Like, I can't even like stare at Sonia because her smile's so big right now. But Sonia, my challenge to you, instead of you telling yourself you have to make calls, you flip the energy around to you need to spread joy today to 10 people. Now, how can you do that? And literally, joy could just be like, hey, I saw your name and it made me smile. I just want to let you know I'm just so grateful for you. Like legit, that's your call or your text.
I love that. And that's my thing, spreading joy. So that's all me all day.
Sonia,
Yeah.
what's
So
like
it aligns with my energy.
that's it. When
Yes,
you align with your energy, what happens in your life is just it's like liberating. It's like you start to float, right?
absolutely. Yes,
And Sonia, that's your key is like remove anything or not remove, shift it away
shift it.
from,
Mhm.
right? Yeah, it's still a phone call, but how can that phone call be something of joy where you're just expressing to someone, oh my God, I saw your name and I remember how much fun we had looking for houses.
Yes,
I'll let you know I miss you and I hope you're doing great.
love it.
Or you call them, hey, are you thinking of buying or selling a house in the 7 days?
No.
Yeah.
That scares me.
Yeah. Exactly. So, and that's that energy shift that we want to think about. And you can apply that energy shift to anything in your life that's blocking you right now.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So what in your coaching program, what are some of the main things that people face, challenges people face that you help them through? Is it a lot of, oh, and John just popped in, is the phone call recipient glad you called today?
Yeah. And I mean, if you're not, once again, when you make these calls, just spread joy. If they're not glad about that, you probably shouldn't be calling them.
Right. That's a good
Um,
metric. Yeah.
yeah.
Yes.
Laura, I would probably say that the vast majority of challenges that people have come back into, I'll generalize them rather than specifics, right? It comes back into three things. Number one would be comparison mindset.
I'm looking at my friend's house and she manages to keep it clean.
Comparison mindset. And you can apply this across all areas of our life.
Yeah.
Number two is people pleasing. So putting everyone else before yourself. Number three would be feeling of this hustle culture that we're fed. And really learning this process of less is more.
Yeah.
Those are the most common. And then underneath each of those, you could apply different things, right? Health, losing weight, selling more real estate, being more organized, lots of areas underneath those three. But if we took those three categories, some people would say, oh yeah, check, check, check. All three.
And here I hear it.
Yeah. Oh, but most people will associate with one of those three that's sort of blocking them in what they
Mhm.
want to achieve in their life.
Mhm.
And comparison mindset, I think we'll start there. It's such a big challenge because of the fact that we are surrounded by messages, and we are, we have a device in our hands that for most of us
Mhm.
is next to our head or is within arm's reach 24 hours a day.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I don't know if you know this, but they've invested trillions of dollars in a device to make us unhappy.
Mhm. Mhm.
That
I actually have a friend who does a lot of research on social listening, and he says that basically he thinks it's basically criminal the way that
Yeah.
they've hacked the brain. They took all the studies on the way that our brains function and what is addictive behavior, and they took it and they're using it to manipulate. So same thing in casinos, right? The idea of like the lever, you just pull the lever. It's like a little rat pushing the lever in a box. Like they know, the scientists know more about how our brains work than we do. And now people, in the technology industry or social media industry are using that information to get us to buy things, basically. And they've hacked our brains.
You got it. And we usually don't buy stuff if we're happy and
Right.
centered and grounded and like.
Right. That's not very profitable.
No, it's not profitable to go to your doctor and they're like, yeah, like let's just eat a little less calories. No, it's profitable to say, here's this $1,000 drug.
Right. That if you don't take it,
You're gonna, yeah.
luck.
So that comparison mindset is really challenging because we literally are using devices that they figure out how to make us compare ourselves all day, every day. Right.
Yeah.
The second one of people pleasing is really critical because I call this concept being healthy selfish, right? Being selfish about your health and really making sure that you take care of yourself first. And there's this crazy concept that we're not taught. We're taught we need to take care of everyone else first. But the reality is we can't make anyone else happy. Sonia said it, happiness is an inside job. And unfortunately, you are outside of everyone else that you love and care about. And we can't make anyone else happy. What we can do is we can show up as our best, most powerful self. And in that process, hopefully that's going to inspire and we can provide certain aspects and resources. But if we are putting everyone else in front of us, we are actually showing up diminished, exhausted, overwhelmed, and less than who we really are. And this is one of those processes that sometimes the things that make us great in life, taking care of other people, are also the things that hold us back in our life.
Yes.
Right.
Oxygen mask philosophy, when they say put your oxygen mask on first, and all us parents were like, no, but my kid, and it's so counterintuitive to what we think she should be doing, but you literally cannot help your child if you're passed out. I mean, you're no good. You're no good.
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of times, like the things we need to do, which are very small, like going for a walk for 10 minutes could, be really, really beneficial for you. But then what do most of us do? We wake up, we take care of our kids, and we go into our emails.
Yeah,
and we
run from one thing to the next.
Run. And in many ways, just that process of slowing down and taking care of ourselves as our number one priority, right? And that's not to say you ignore the things that you're responsible for, that you care about, that are your career, but you have to figure out and so for me, for example, my mornings are sacred, right? So during the rest of the day, like I'm a coach, I'm running a company. So the rest of my day, for the most part, my 9 to 5-ish is other people's time. I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
As long as 6 to 7:30 is my time. Right? I take care of myself. I work out, I meditate, I get my food ready for the day. I read, I journal, or whatever it is that is important to you in life. And by the way, this does not need to be a 90-minute. You want to create structures where you can actually do it in a minute.
Yes.
If need be.
Did you ever read Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod or whatever? Yeah. So he said the same thing. I was so intimidated by this. And he's like, literally, you just do each of the things for a minute or, 10 seconds or something. That's more, that already has an impact. So you don't have
My final interview at the 6 Amherst was Hal.
Oh, wow, okay. Amazing. His story is incredible, and it really makes you feel like if he can do it, or what he's managed to achieve, it's the proof's in the pudding.
Yeah. And I think then that goes into that third concept, right, of less, right? We think we need to work out for an hour at an Orange Theory class, or no, that's actually go and just do as many push-ups as you can in as much time as it might take. And that's actually a workout. I'm gonna meditate for 1 minute. I'm gonna read 1 page.
Yeah.
Like less is more.
Yeah.
Less is more. And that's why I sort of coached this concept of ignoring the outcome and not obsessing about the outcome, and really, really, really caring about the process.
Yes. I started to attend a yoga class with friends in Michigan. So it's 6 a.m. for people in Michigan, noon French time, which is I feel like I'm cheating, but that's fine. I just love these women, and I love showing up, and it's 1 hour a week, and that's not very much, but I've done it for 2.5 years, and my flexibility is off the charts, just once a week, right? And it's because I want to be around these women, and that has been my biggest for me. Oh yeah, it's just about the showing up, right?
Yep.
The workouts aren't that intense, and it's only once a week and all that, but it's really like showing up a couple for over years. It's amazing.
It's amazing. Yeah, and that long term,
Yeah.
that long term process for you, you just obsess about the once a week. And that's all you cared about. And then, you looked at your progress after 2 or 3 yoga sessions. A lot of people just give up and they quit because it doesn't happen like that. But that's the reality is, and that's why we got to find joy in the process and happiness in the process, not the outcome.
And community and all that. I think that helps
That's
a lot.
it.
Yeah, I don't know, that's something that you're building in your program also is really important for you to connect people because we inspire each other. Right.
And most of us, I think, in today's day and age, especially in the real estate world, we actually operate in very, very lonely spaces. We operate very, very lonely. And even if we're on teams or, we operate in if you are in the real estate industry, most of us aren't going into offices, a lot of working from home, or you're showing clients, right? So this idea of community, like we are communal beings, we're meant to be part of community. And it's very, very easy for most of us to let ourselves down. It's really hard for us to let someone else down. That's why community is so critical to what I'm building, but also to most people's success.
Yeah.
Your yoga, it's if you had an individual Peloton yoga,
Get it.
you'd find every reason not to do it. But you wanted to see these women.
Right.
Your
Otherwise, I
friend.
have to text them and tell them I'm not coming, and I'll do a lot to avoid that.
Yeah, you don't want to let them down, right?
Yeah.
It's so critical that we dive into that. That community is everything. So
I wonder also about this. It is easy to let ourselves down, but I wonder what it does to our self-confidence. When we see ourselves not keep our word to ourselves, just because we're used to doing it, I think doesn't mean it doesn't do damage to our self-worth. Because I see this idea, the more I pour into myself and prioritize myself and give myself permission to take this time, the more I value myself, for sure. I sort of subconsciously, I see myself taking care, and all of a sudden now I'm worth more.
Yeah, that's it.
And I show up differently.
You got it. It's exactly right. And that's, I think, where we go back into energy or intention, why it's critical to make an energetic commitment to yourself. Like that one word you create can shift your actions, right? So, and I think that's really critical that we make a commitment to ourselves first and align with that each day.
Yeah. Because that's the most powerful bond, I think,
You got it.
they have in building it. I'm wondering how these philosophies developed. Was it during your time at Compass, head of coaching, that you started playing with some of these ideas, and how did you, use it to help coach agents specifically?
Sure. It's definitely, I would probably say it's sort of the culmination of a lifetime of work. And so I could say it's a culmination of lots of being raised by an incredibly powerful mom, who's a single mom, and just, I think growing up poor, you learn a lot of lessons as well. Then probably athletics, being a Division I athlete and learning what it takes to like really make a commitment, not just to myself, but also my teammates. later in life, like, having all the therapy that I've gone through. Yeah.
Same. I'm a
And,
big fan of
and
therapy.
lots of therapy over here and lots of
Yeah.
learning through that.
Yeah.
And then also integrating every year, I try to do 3 things that either challenge me physically, mentally, or both.
Okay.
So whether it might be, a 7-day bike ride from, San Francisco to LA, or a 3-day, training on like how to become your best self. Or I'm working right now. I'm going to try to do a meditation like retreat this year, do yoga retreat. So you take all these things and it sort of builds into this culmination. And then every single day I wake up and I want to learn and grow, and acknowledging that I am an imperfect being. And instead of like being frustrated at my imperfections, like viewing these as gifts. Right. So the fact that as a leader, I show up and I am imperfect gives everyone permission to be imperfect and celebrate those imperfections as areas of opportunity, areas of growth, and areas of joy.
Yeah. What would you mind sharing, like an imperfection that you have that you feel like is a strength? I mean, this is such an interview question, right? It's like, tell me about your weaknesses.
I am so disorganized.
Okay.
Like you have no idea. And it's like one of those situations. I illustrated this with you actually, right? Like where I was so disorganized, I double booked, I think.
Oh, right. We were in a rescheduled session, and it wasn't the end of the world, was it? I'm super
It
glad it's
wasn't the end of the
happening
world.
today. Yeah.
Yeah. Once again, everything worked out.
Yeah.
But it was a good example of my disorganization where, and so for me, rather than like sit there and say, I'm going to take a 7-week training program to be organized, it's like, all right, I know this is a weakness. Rather than like me fix my weakness, what I do is I create structures to help me address it through leverage. So I recently just hired a chief of staff who now is managing my calendar.
And I'm sure is loving it. I cannot tell you, there's nothing I love more than scheduling things Ophir can hop on here and weigh in on it. But I'm like, because that's my passion. And isn't it great to have everybody in their lane, for their passions?
Yeah.
I can definitely attest to that.
Yeah, Ophir teases me all the time about it. But I think he's happy to have it on his team, so we play to our strengths.
That's it. Well, and I think too, if you're going to attest to this, like if you force me to try to become this organized person and not become organized, but do all the organization, what am I taking away from? My strength.
Yeah. And
My
it's
strength
draining.
is-
It's
Yeah.
draining. And it hurts your confidence. I think when you
Oh my
spend
God.
too much time outside your zone of genius, it really wears you down.
really does.
Yeah, because you don't
Totally.
get to see yourself
Yeah.
shine.
Yeah. And when everyone is operating in their strengths and in their lane, it's not like you accomplish as much. You actually can 10x
Yeah.
what you can accomplish when you stay in your lane. Right. And and not only is it an accomplishment, it's also just energetic. It's
Right.
fun. Right. And that's what you come back to as like, okay, this is where it gets really good.
Yeah. My dad always used to say, like, do something you love and it'll never feel like work, because you're just really happy to be there and you're going to be excellent at it because you just do it all the time because you enjoy doing it. But I think there is a lot of shame, with a lot of real estate agents who they do feel shame around, not having systems in place because they're not systems minded, or not having their schedule is a mess, or maybe not being good at hiring, or maybe not really liking managing people or leading people, and they feel really bad about it, and they kind of show it to me like it's their underwear journal, they're just like, you build a lot of trust, and then I'm like, that's it, that's all you got. I've seen so much worse. Like, that's normal, because you're so good at these other things, and I don't know where we learned that we were supposed to be amazing at everything, but that's unrealistic, and thank goodness it's not the case. I realized at one point I'm a time person. My PhD's in history. I'm a historian. I love dates. I love change over time. I love the past. And I realized I'm so happy in real estate because I'm surrounded by like place people, space people who love, the visuals of maps and interiors of houses. And I was like, oh, I have my space. I have my place here because I'm not that. I think differently. And so I'm able to bring value.
So great. I'm a history major as well. So it's like, I love history. I love how history tells a story as well. Right. And I think real estate tells a story.
That's true.
Realtors tell story. It's
Yeah,
that's
yeah. It's how we make sense of the world, right? And it shows what we value.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure.
Very
That's
cool.
interesting. Yeah, so I'm wondering about on a team, when you're leading a team or when you're coaching teams, how do you foster like a positive environment? I mean, right? So we don't want to compare ourselves to other agents, right? But we want to lift other agents up, even though we might be in the same market. So how do you get that, balance of a good positive accountability on the team?
Sure. Well, I think the first thing is actually, ironically, it's not about the team, it's about you. The
Okay.
first thing you need to do is really understand who you are and what your strengths are. From there, then you need to understand who your team is and what their strengths are. And you got to make sure you're really, really clear that your strengths align with the model of team you're trying to build. So, for example, if you are a rainmaker and you love generating leads, closing deals, and just crushing the business, you probably should not have a team that requires a ton of mentoring and like sort of caretaking, right?
Right.
It's going to crumble. Like those people will leave you tomorrow. You want a team that is also systematized, geared at that same type of energy that's going to feed off of the leads you're producing.
Right.
You are a mentor, and you're someone who thrives when you're mentoring people and coaching people. Then you need to make sure you are creating a team that is structured around your strengths.
Right.
And once again, so each of these strengths is critical to start with who you are as a person and what is your why around building a team. So most teams go back into one of three things of why people are building them: time, money, or emotion. And most people will be like, oh no, I want all three. The reality is you have to take one of those three and it has to become your number one priority or your why.
Right. Okay.
Am I trying to create more time in my life? Am I trying to create more money in my life? Or am I trying to create more emotion, happiness? And there's no judgment or ranking of any of those three.
Right.
But what happens is people try to achieve all three. And when everything is a priority, nothing is a priority. And so your team members are like all over the map, like, wait, what is the priority?
Right. So an example of that would be maybe when you take buyer's agents on, like fresh new buyer's agents on. And so maybe you're going to get the joy and satisfaction of mentoring, but you're not necessarily going to have more time and they might not be producing right away. And so you might not have more money either.
Well, and I think if your why is emotion, you're like, hey, I know this is going to take me some time.
Yeah.
Cool. You're good. But if your why is money, or let's say your why is time, and you take on brand new agents that require a lot of mentoring, you actually are going against the grain, and this is where people hate their team because it doesn't align with their why.
Right. They resent it, I think, at that point because they're like, I thought I was making my life easier, and now
then
more people, more problems.
Totally. Exactly. So if your why is more time, like, well, okay, I got to make sure I hire experienced agents that don't require a lot of mentoring.
Right.
And that might mean I make a little less money on them, but I'm achieving my why of time.
Right.
Or I want to make more money. Great. You probably are going to hire in a little less experienced agents who you charge a higher split, but you got to make sure you have the structures for them to succeed.
Right.
Yeah. And you get the point. So the three things to remember as a team leader is, number one, identify your why. And is it time, money, or emotion? And don't get fluffy and say, my why is my kids, my why is my family. Like, of course.
You get to pick three. Pick from one of those.
Yeah. And you can only pick one of those three to focus on at any given point of time.
Okay.
If you try to focus on all three,
Recipe for disappointment, for sure.
You got it. And the other thing you can do is know that in time you may shift, right? So maybe my focus immediately is time. As I create more time, I'm actually going to then shift to money. And, so it doesn't mean that you're forever committing to one of those three.
Right.
But for short periods of time, you have to say, this is my priority.
Yes.
If that makes sense.
That's an intention. Yes.
Energy.
Gonna orient you.
Simplify.
Yeah.
So Yeah.
John hopped in the chat, said, as a sales and leadership coach for a small team, I remind myself as I walk in the door every day, I am there to help them grow their business, drive revenue, and have fun doing it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And John, that's a beautiful sentiment. The key thing is then how do you actually make sure you materialize in that? And you have three things: grow their business, drive revenue, and have fun. That's awesome. Those are all three. So what I would recommend is take short periods of time and figure out which one of those three are you going to focus on in the next month, and then the next month, and then the next month, etc. So this way, as a team leader, you're not trying to do too much. Once again, less. So John, like for this month of July, or maybe let's say August, which one of those three goals are you going to focus on? Maybe it's more fun, right? In August.
Summer's a good time for fun. Yeah.
Fun is great. And you, once again, everything you said there is so beautiful, so perfect. But just make sure short periods of time, you hyper focus on one of those, not try to do all three at all times, because that will get very exhausting.
I
Yeah.
think what I try to do is read the room, because I meet individually with the people on the team, and each person's going to be in a different space each
Good.
day.
Yep.
So, but that's where I sort of pinch myself when I walk in the door to go, okay,
Yeah.
it's game time. I'm on whatever I got going on. Maybe that is dragging me the other way. I check that.
John, what's your greatest struggle as a team leader right now?
Oh, I have to think about that for a second. I'm not having many. So I'm sort of knocking on wood here.
Okay.
Because it's going pretty well. I would say the biggest struggle as a team, and I know you kind of get away a little bit from results. I'm kind of results oriented because that's why I'm there to support the owner.
Yep.
So I would say right now, just dealing with keeping our head space good in a difficult real estate market. Does that make sense?
That's absolutely, yeah. So John, then what you want to do is say, okay, well, what is the actions that I can focus on to achieve that result, right? So John, very specifically, what is one thing that you could focus on or do to help your salespeople keep their heads on straight?
Well, I think I took some notes here, but I think, having conversations about the process and making sure that we're, to kind of quote you, finding joy in the process.
Yeah. Yeah. So everyone commits to doing one thing selfishly that month.
Yeah. Each one of our buyer's agents commits to making 20 contacts a day. It's not a requirement, but it kind of sort of is, right?
Yep.
I mean, we ask them every day, did you do it or not? That's their accountability part.
Yeah.
How to take that from I have to do that to I want to do that, and like I stated before, is the recipient really glad that you called because you brought value to them today?
Yeah. Yeah. So John, here's an example too. Maybe what if you planned a fun end of summer barbecue, and then their contacts are all geared around invitations to the barbecue? And then this way you reframe it away from like, oh, you got to make 20 contacts around trying to generate a sale. Instead, it's a phone call for an invitation, and it goes with having fun. I'm just trying to give you some ideas, right?
Good stuff.
Yeah. Awesome. Sorry, Laura, I had to ask.
Yeah, I love it. Thanks for jumping in about that. Do you have any stories of like great success stories of people you've coached or people you're just like so proud of that you want to shout it from the rooftops? And, you don't have to, all names can be kept anonymous, but I just thought, anything that you've seen over time that's just because, in teaching, for example, like we have these students where we're like, oh yeah, that was what I was aiming to do. And a lot of times it didn't work out exactly like that, but the wins.
So I'll highlight a win I had this morning, and it's a really interesting one because I think it highlights when you address one area of your life, how it impacts others. So one of my one-on-one coaching partners is an owner of a brokerage. And when we started coaching him, all he wanted to do was talk about business. But as I dug, there was all these life things that he was struggling with.
Mhm.
Weight, issues in his marriage,
Mhm. Mhm.
relationship stuff, right? And what we've done in the 6 weeks of coaching is I actually shifted all my coaching around his life, and I haven't even really talked about his business. So on our coaching call today, he lost 11 pounds. He's had two of the best sales meetings he's ever had. His revenue is up in the last month,
Wow.
market, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
and so it's a win because of the fact that all I did was actually we just have hyper focus on his health, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
So I check in with him. He's like committed to like not eating after 10 o'clock. He's fasting, he's working out again. He signed up for a 5K that he's training for. And by the way, all he can do right now is walk.
Right, right.
He can't even run yet.
Mhm.
But he lost 11 pounds in 6 weeks. But the trickle, even though I don't, in my coaching, I haven't really talked about his business that much. We'll highlight it a little bit. I haven't really coached him on business yet.
Mhm. Mhm.
But by him focusing on his health, the impacts it's having in everything else is tremendous.
Yeah.
From when he first came to me, he was like, I need to do this. And it was like this more.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And
It's like
just
suffocating under all the shouldas and
Right.
gottas and all that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
And I know if
Like valuing himself, because that's the thing is like so often we know what we should be doing to get the result. Like we've heard it, it's intellectual, it's stored in there somewhere, but we don't do it. And so it's sort of getting at, what's holding us back. And a lot of times it is like you feel bad about yourself in certain ways. It's like it's demotivating. Who wants to take action?
Yeah. And that's why I created this one program in my coaching called the Happier Human, because of the fact, really, for the most part, I don't need to coach real estate agents on how to sell real estate.
Mhm.
I actually just got to coach real estate agents on how to get out of their own way
Mhm.
and how to get unstuck.
Yeah.
And most of us in the real estate industry, especially, are just in our own way and we're getting stuck and roadblocking. And all of a sudden, we remove those, phew, they can take off.
Because so many of the beliefs and mindset and expectations in real estate are that they have to work 24/7, that you can't take vacation, that, the hustle, it really valorizes that hustle culture. And so I see people get worn out so much faster. I see people with health problems and the stress and the caring. It's like you think you have to care so much in order to get the outcome. You have to hold so tightly in your business in order to get the outcome that you want, that it has a physical impact. And so I think maybe more than other industries, this is so entrepreneurial, and it's so like hustle mentality. And there's a potential. You think like, oh, if I just work more hours, I'll make more money and all that. But there's the law of diminishing returns. We always forget about the law of diminishing returns, right? And so I think more than in any other industry that I know of, it's like real estate agents, they need to take care of themselves. They really like, and I want to give everybody just like a big hug and tell them to take a nap and go for a walk.
It is. And I think it's very difficult in real estate because number one, we don't have a built-in routine of like showing up to an office at 9 and leaving at 5.
Yeah.
And number two, the mentality of the real estate world is that you're going to work all the time and you're available because you have a cell phone at all times.
Right.
We got to create boundaries with our clients and with our coworkers and our team and everything like that. And they can't be boundaries that only we know about them. Other people know about them.
Right.
So,
and I like, maybe Ophir, if you're okay with me referencing this, Ophir talks about, it's really about treating yourself as a professional because businesses have working hours. Like I love when Ophir said this to me in my mind, he was like, businesses have working hours. Professionals have working hours. They are not open at 1 a.m. for people scrolling on Zillow. And so it's like when you set those expectations, rather than clients being frustrated, they treat you more like a professional because of the structure that you've set up for yourself.
Yeah. And Laura, the thing I'll add in there too is that you do need to create world where they understand the boundaries, but then you're also addressing their fears and concerns. So an example of this that I coach to is every one of your clients on Monday gets an email from you with your calendar link. And on Monday you say, hey, just checking in. Here's my schedule for the week. If there's anything that you need to talk about this week that we haven't talked about, schedule with me. Also, if there is an emergency, text me the Batman emoji. That's my sign that I need to call you as soon as I possibly can because it's an emergency.
Yeah.
And what you did there is number one, you gave them your calendar So you're fitting them in.
They're empowered. They feel like they can, take action.
Correct. And then number two, you also provided a pressure relief system that if I got a text from a client that's a Batman emoji, I'm like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Something's going on. Like, excuse me, I need to make a call.
Yeah.
Rather than them calling, texting you 4 or 5 times, you're like, wait, oh my God, what's going
Is this
on?
a big deal? Is this not a big deal?
Plus, you will never have a client say to you, my real estate agent never talked to me. Because every Monday they're going to get that email. And this is on top of other things. And you're going
other
to
check-ins or seller updates or whatever you have programmed and
But
planned.
if they know, if all your clients know, hey, I knew I could get in touch with Skye. And you know what? Like but you also want to provide that pressure relief valve or the emergency cord, so to speak, because we do operate in a world where you want their clients to know if it's an emergency, I will be there for you.
Right.
But most of the requests that clients have, 99% of them are not emergencies, but it feels like an emergency to them. But if they know they can get on my calendar and we can discuss the price reduction, discuss the neighbor's home that just came on, but instead of me having to get home at night at 7 o'clock and then be like, oh my God, I got to call this person.
Yeah.
Instead, it's in my calendar at 2 o'clock on Thursday and I can get prepared for it.
And that's helpful for the people pleasers. Like me and my husband, we never wanted to bother our agent. We were always like, oh, am I going to get, and so it's like, if I have an invitation to book time, then I feel like,
you feel seen and heard.
Exactly. Yeah. That's
Awesome.
Yeah. And I think also, in real estate, it's like, it's sort of exciting, when you first get in, it's so exciting to be busy. I think we really, deep secretly like guilty pleasure, like it. And that can last a long time or short time, depending on our personality style or whatever, but always eventually it'll become a burden. And now all of a sudden you feel like you have to do it. And it's like weighing you down and you're tied to your business and all of that. And so it's sort of setting up that structure a little bit before it becomes so heavy, kind of anticipate it.
Well, Laura, we get addicted to cortisol. Like
Yeah.
As weird as it sounds, like there's an addiction that if we don't feel that cortisol,
That
we
little
feel
rush, the urgency.
But when your real estate business is boring, in a good way, right? Not boring.
Right.
Nothing's
Steady,
happening.
slow,
Yeah, it's like steady. There's no issue.
predictable,
Predictable.
consistent. What? A real
That's
estate
actually
business
pretty
can
good.
be consistent.
Yeah, that's what you want. You want your business to be boring because that means you're doing all your systems and processes are in place where you're solving all the problems before they begin.
Right. And then you can get your thrills elsewhere.
That's right. Investing or working out or taking care of your kids or all the
other dopamine hits that, that you might be craving. Oh,
real dopamine. That's not fake.
Yeah, real, actual, not artificially induced. We have 2 minutes if anyone wants to pop a question or a comment or anything in the chat. I'm so grateful for this time that we have. I feel like I could talk for hours. So will you share with us? I'll share with the recording information about your coaching program and the Happier People projects. So that Happier Human project. So that we can.
So my coaching company is called With Heart Coaching. It's called that by design, to remove my name from the name. So over time, it'll become a place where other people can coach as well. But in the short term too, it highlights the philosophy and culture of the company, which is we coach with heart, right? With care. And we take care of the human being first and then the business. Currently, I have 3 programs I'm running. One is your traditional one-on-one program. The second one right now is a 7-week program all around building a long-term repeat and referral business. I call it the Forever Real Estate Client. Okay. How do you actually build a portfolio of clients forever? And then the third one is the Happier Human program, which is basically a subscription-based program that you can join at any time. And it's very inexpensive. It's $100 a month, all designed to get you unstuck from yourself. Make you happier, healthier, and more human.
That's amazing. And I think you said you meet once a week, or there's a once a week call for the Happier Human program.
Once a week, very low lift, and it's just a lot of fun, a lot of community. And I'm really grateful you had me on. Grateful to see such good friends as well.
Amazing faces. If I can make a request, if everyone can come on camera for just a hot second, I'm going to grab a photo for our social media person. We'll be very happy. If you want to hop on. If you don't, also, John, if you haven't showered yet, that's all good. But if we can get a couple of smiles in there. Yeah, thank you. Hey, guys. Amazing. Thank you so much.
right.
Oh, so grateful for your time, grateful for everybody who showed up. We know that you're very busy people, and it means the world that you came to hang out and connect and share your thoughts today.
Thank you, everyone. I much appreciate it.
Take
It was good
care.
seeing you. Bye, guys.
Okay, bye.